Welcome to This Explainer. Right now, there is a massive, high-stakes digital Cold War playing out. And it's not happening on traditional battlefields. It's unfolding deep inside those massive humming data centers that literally run our modern world. I mean, as artificial intelligence completely reshapes the global economy, the actual physical hardware and the networks powering these AI models, they've become the ultimate geopolitical prize. So today, we're unpacking some sweeping new security frameworks, massive hardware bans, and a huge supply chain shockwave that's fundamentally altering how the internet is built. Okay, let's dive into this. The US government is making its stance absolutely crystal clear right now. Look at this recent FCC national security determination. They're outright stating that foreign manufactured networking equipment isn't just some competitive economic issue anymore. It's a severe, unacceptable threat to American critical infrastructure. Basically, we are rapidly moving away from an era of globalized tech supply chains straight into an era of locked down digital fortresses. So, here's our threat assessment protocol for today's briefing. First, we'll map out the new digital battleground. Then, we'll look at securing the AI fortress, followed by the FC hardware ban, the resulting supply chain shockwaves, and finally, we'll break down the global tech divide. All right, part one, the new digital battleground, the unprecedented scale of AI vulnerabilities. Moving right along to part two, securing the AI fortress, NIST SP 800-239 draft guidelines. You see, the sheer massive scale of modern AI workloads introduces entirely new vectors for digital compromise, stuff traditional IT frameworks literally can't handle. So to combat this unprecedented threat, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, stepped in with these new draft guidelines. Just look at this list of threats they're trying to stop. It honestly reads like a cyberpunk thriller, right? We've got model distillation attacks, where automated queries secretly copy and train a rival AI model. We've got AI black box and prompt injection attacks, specifically designed to manipulate an AI's underlying logic. And then there are man-in-the-middle attacks targeting those incredibly high-speed networks connecting multiple cooperating data centers. I mean, attackers can literally poison the training data or intercept the traffic flying between these facilities. The attack surface here is just unbelievably vast. So the crucial point is how NIST actually plans to defend against these vectors. They recommend a baseline strategy combining two major things: zero trust and a hardware root of trust. Let's de-jargon that for a second. Zero trust means exactly what it sounds like. Never trust, always verify. The network just assumes a breach has already happened, so it demands continuous verification for everything and grants only the absolute minimum access required. A hardware root of trust, on the other hand, embeds security physically into the silicon chips themselves. Working together, they ensure every single interaction inside the AI infrastructure is authenticated. This maintains strict privacy without throttling that massive computing performance AI desperately needs. But technology alone just isn't enough here. Even in this hyper-advanced, high-tech environment, NIST strongly recommends what they call a human-in-the-loop protocol. Basically, between step 1, developing an AI model, and step 3, deploying it into production, there has to be step 2, a definitive human governance decision. It's actually a fascinating acknowledgement. When we're dealing with systems this incredibly powerful, we absolutely still need human oversight and human accountability, ready to pull the plug if a severe security event happens. Section 3. The FCC hardware ban, redefining the covered list. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that this is where we shift from software guidelines to the actual physical infrastructure itself. This right here is the documentary evidence, FCC document DA2627. This marks the exact moment the U.S. government officially declared that foreign-produced routers pose an unacceptable national security risk and formally added them to the feared covered list. Once a piece of equipment lands on this list, it essentially becomes radioactive in the U.S. market, totally prohibited from receiving equipment authorization. But we do need to clarify exactly what is and what isn't caught in this dragnet. The FCC ban specifically targets new foreign-made consumer routers, portable Wi-Fi devices, and residential LTE or 5G equipment, the kind of stuff you'd set up in your own home. However, it's highly specific. For example, smartphones with hotspot capabilities, those are currently exempt. Furthermore, the ban applies to new models seeking authorization. That means existing enterprise models and the older tech currently sitting in your house aren't immediately bricked. But make no mistake, their eventual replacements will be strictly regulated. Let's move to and see how this builds, because this definitely didn't just happen overnight. Tracking the escalation chronologically, we can see a really systematic tightening of our digital borders. Back in March 2021, video surveillance companies like Hikvision and Dahoa, along with the cybersecurity firm Kaspersky, were added to the list. Then by March 2022, telecommunications providers like China Telecom were restricted. And jumping to March 2026, the net is being cast incredibly wide to catch all new foreign-produced consumer routers. It is a very deliberate, chronological lockdown. Section 4, Supply Chain Shockwaves, Optical Transceivers, and Conditional Approvals. Because the restrictions certainly aren't stopping at the router in your living room. The dragnet is rapidly expanding deep into the critical microscopic components that make hyperscale data centers actually function. Right now, the US is mulling over bans on key Chinese networking tech, specifically optical transceivers. And why do these matter so much? Because they are the crucial pieces of tech that convert electrical data into light, allowing information to travel at literally the speed of light through fiber optic cables in data centers. Without them, the entire AI revolution basically halts. Furthermore, reports are indicating incoming bans on foreign-made robotics used in these advanced supply chains. This is a massive crackdown on the foundational hardware of the AI era. There is, however, a loophole, while a highly regulated backdoor left open by the FCC called a conditional approval. If a foreign producer is caught on the covered list, their only way out is to undergo a rigorous, individualized assessment by the Department of War or the Department of Homeland Security. They have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that they've established a trusted manufacturing capacity right inside the United States and that they absolutely do not pose a supply chain or national security risk. As you can imagine, it is an incredibly high bar to clear. Which brings us to our final section, Part 5, the Global Tech Divide, Balancing National Security and Industry Expansion. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how all of this aggressive maneuvering is being perceived across the global stage. It's a textbook policy clash. On one side, you have the US government's perspective, which is very clear. These bans are an absolute necessity to prevent severe cybersecurity risks, to protect critical infrastructure, and to force the creation of a resilient, trusted supply chain. But on the other side, global industry experts in the Chinese perspective argue that this will inevitably raise costs for service providers, dramatically slow down the expansion of global AI infrastructure, and is essentially just an exercise in political tech hegemony rather than pure security. So what does all this geopolitical wrangling over optical transceivers and NIST guidelines actually mean for you? Well, these supply chain shifts will eventually hit your wallet. By forcing supply chains to relocate and restricting cheaper foreign hardware, we're highly likely looking at changes in the price of your monthly internet bill, the cost and availability of your next home Wi-Fi router, and honestly, even the speed at which developers can bring you the next generation of life-changing AI apps. The macro level here directly impacts the micro level of our daily lives. Which leaves us with this final, really vital question to think about. As we lock down the hardware and impose these strict new frameworks, will these ultimate security measures successfully protect the American AI matrix? Or will they fundamentally fracture our highly interconnected global digital infrastructure? It's an incredibly delicate balance between absolute security and global innovation, and how it plays out over the next few years is going to define the next decade of technology. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep your eyes on those data centers.